This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, our special guest, Michael Ledeen, the co-author with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn of the new book, The Field of Fight, How We Can Win the Global War Against Radical Islam and Its Allies. Michael Ledeen, what an honor and a privilege to have you on the Glazov Gang.
My pleasure, my privilege.
Thank you, Michael. Quite a book. Spent the last couple days reading it. Before we get into some of the frightening, fascinating details in the book, let's begin with what inspired you to participate in co-authoring this with the Lieutenant General.
Well, General Flynn came to me and asked me if I'd be willing to work with him on a book. It was his idea. He wanted to do it.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your background, why Lieutenant General Michael Flynn would approach you. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, the important thing to understand why he came to me was that our daughter, Simone Ledeen, worked with him. She, in fact, had the desk next to his at McChrystal's headquarters in Afghanistan. So they became buddies, and she introduced us, and we became friends. And when he retired, he wanted to write a book. In fact, he wanted to write this book. So he came and asked me if I'd work with him on it, and I said, sure, love to.
Okay. Well, Michael, you're being a little bit humble here as well. Just give our viewers a little bit about your background, why you're a very special person to write this book as well.
Well, I've written 36 other books. This is number 37.
Yeah.
And this book is a bestseller. This book's on all the bestseller lists.
Yeah.
And I often tell my friends, they say, how'd you do it? I said, well, I lived 75 years. It only took me 75 years to publish a bestseller.
Excellent. And you also were a prominent individual in the Reagan administration. Am I correct?
I was a special advisor to the Secretary of State, and then I spent a few years as a busy consultant at the National Security Council.
Okay, thank you, Michael. An expert on many things, especially Iran. Now let's get to it. In the field of fight, in the beginning, straight off the bat, you stress that we are losing. And the government is actually covering up the reports of us losing. Just like President Lyndon Johnson was not honest, as you and the Lieutenant General write about U.S. gains in Vietnam, there's some deception going on here in terms of what the government is doing, correct?
Hell yes. I mean, you have the CENTCOM Inspector General now responding to formal complaints. It's very rare that something like this happens. But there have been formal complaints from CENTCOM intelligence analysts claiming that their superiors have toned down their reports so the political leaders are happy.
Right, and the Obama administration does not want the American people or the world to know what exactly is happening in the war on terror, and also largely connected to the fact that it's catastrophically, quote unquote, fighting it. Lots of things they don't want us to know, including what the field of fight talks about, the Bin Laden documents. Tell us a bit about those documents and what we're allowed to know.
Well, in the operation against Bin Laden, the special forces went into his home and took away documents, hard drives, computers, so forth. And those things have all been analyzed, and there are more than 1 million files. We have been permitted to read only a couple dozen of those. Even the couple dozen tell us a lot of things that show that what the administration has been saying, namely that Al-Qaeda has been wrecked, that it's now a minor force, that it's contained and so forth, is false. Al-Qaeda has been growing. Al-Qaeda today is probably twice the size it was at the time of the Bin Laden operation. And we have all those documents, and we've had them for years. And still they won't release them.
In other words, the administration knows that Al-Qaeda is rising and expanding, along with other jihadist groups, but it's telling the American people the exact opposite.
Yes, exactly.
The administration not only will not tell the American people certain things, as the field of fight talks about, it also won't say two words, radical Islam. And this contradicts and violates Sun Tzu's main philosophy and the main philosophy of how to fight a war and to win one. Talk about this disaster, about the two words that the administration will not articulate.
Yeah, well, Sun Tzu says you must know your enemy and you must know yourself. And this administration has made it impossible for us to know our enemy, because it won't permit us to say that our primary enemy is radical Muslims, and we cannot talk about radical Islam, which deprives us of an integral part of a winning strategy, which is to discredit and to take on the philosophy of the jihadis. And in World War II, for example, when we fought the fascists, and in the Cold War when we fought the communists, we were relentless at going after what they preached, what they said, what they were indoctrinating their followers to believe. And this is contrary to our winning tradition of previous wars, because both in World War II, fighting Nazis and fascists, and in the Cold War fighting communists, we were at great pains to discredit their ideology and poke holes in it and show how dangerous it was and what a failure it was. And General Flynn and I point out in this book at a certain point that the Islamic world is a colossal failure, and they all know it. So we're not going to tell them anything they don't know. They know they failed. I mean, my favorite factoid in life these days is that in recent years there have been more books translated in an average year into Spanish from foreign languages than there were books translated into Arabic in 1,000 years. Let me say that again, because no one ever believed. More books translated into Spanish in 1 year than into Arabic in 1,000 years, which bespeaks a level of ignorance that's really quite spectacular.
Wow. Quite a fact. And Michael, overall, as you and Lieutenant General Flynn synthesized the issue, we have to get inside the head of the enemy. And this is something we're not doing. Let's switch over to Obama abandoning Iraq in 2011. The field of fight argues that this was a disaster. It led to the rise of the Islamic State and empowered Iran all over the region. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you don't really want to win. Every time we have taken on the jihadis on the battlefield, we have won. We won in Iraq, and we won in those areas of Afghanistan and so forth. But then, of course, no sooner did that happen that our presidents decided to get out, and Obama twice, first in Iraq in 2011 and more recently in Afghanistan. He just wants to get out. He doesn't want to win. And if we're going to win this war, we've got to have leaders who want to win and go after our enemies. And our enemies aren't just radical Muslims. They're also radical tyrants of more secular sorts. Vladimir Putin is not a Muslim, but he's our enemy. And Kim Jong-un in North Korea is not a Muslim, but he's our enemy. We have to go after all those people.
Thank you, Michael. I want to get to that, but first, look, you're an expert on Iran. And look, even recently we hear this more news now of the cash being given to the Iranians under the table for the release of hostages, et cetera, et cetera. The abandonment of Iraq led to the empowerment of Iran. A lot of what the Obama administration is doing directly, including financially and with funding, is empowering Iran. And yet, as you have documented over the years, and you stayed in the field of fight, Iran is killing Americans.
Yeah, all the time. And even early on, the Bush administration was guilty of this too. suppressing the evidence that our people on the battlefield had all along about the role Iran was playing inside Iraq, funding, arming, training Al-Qaeda in Iraq. It was a direct Iranian operation. Everybody on the battlefield knew it. We had two Marine sons, one in Iraq, one in Afghanistan, and they could see it. It was right there in front of their noses.
So we have an American president that is reaching his hand out in solidarity, aiding and abetting a regime that is killing American citizens.
Yes. And the great mystery is why. Why does Obama so passionately want this alliance with Iran, want to embrace Iran, willing to suppress evidence of all the evil things that the Iranians are doing, not be the least bit concerned of the terrible slaughter of Iranian citizens that's going on every day? A couple of days ago, they killed 20 people in a single day. I mean, they pretend that the current president of Iran, Rouhani, is some kind of moderate, when the kill rate inside Iran under Rouhani is 50% higher than it was under Ahmadinejad. And so it goes. Why does he want this alliance so desperately? What is it that so attracts him to Iran? We don't know.
Well, I think some of the evidence definitely lies in the fact that this is an Alinskyite and a hardened leftist, but perhaps this is for another time to discuss. Michael Ledeen, tell us about this peculiar Putin-Iran alliance.
Well, there's nothing peculiar about it. Russia's been busy in Persia for 200 years and more. So Russia has always played a role in Iranian affairs, and especially in intelligence. Remember, General Flynn was the highest ranking military intelligence officer in America. He was the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. So the book focuses on that rather closely.
And absolutely. And when I say peculiar, because at first glance, you would think, why would Putin and Russia be for jihad? You would think there would be an anti-jihadist strain. But we do know that the KGB has a long history of enabling jihad against America. And just expand on that just a little bit more, why Putin also has an interest in empowering jihad.
Well, empowering jihad and enabling Iran to become nuclear. The whole Iranian nuclear program is Russian. The reactors are Russian. The chief scientists at the reactors are Russian. And the Iranians really don't do anything important without clearing it with the Russians first.
Michael, so many vital, important facts you bring up in the field of fight. For instance, you bring up that when Bush finally realized that the Iraq war wasn't working, he turned the strategy around, changed the commander in Iraq with General Petraeus, put Gates in charge of Secretary of Defense, etc. Obama sees failure. Obama knows it's not working. But unlike Bush, it doesn't look like he's going to change anything the way that Bush did.
Well, Bush wanted to win. Mm-hmm. And Obama acts as if he wants to lose. Big difference, total difference.
Yeah, and you state in the book that on November 16th, 2015, for instance, Obama actually said that he is not interested in any kind of winning. This is just incredible for us, in terms of a statement from an American president. So many frightening, scary things you bring up in the field of fight, Michael. In Afghanistan, one of the Al-Qaeda training camps that was finally detected was 30 square miles in size. How is this possible?
Right, it's a city, and we didn't see it. We didn't know it was there. We didn't know it was there until the Taliban carried out the most lethal attack against American forces in Afghanistan ever, and we tracked them back to this camp, and everybody said, "Oh my God, look at this." Yeah, you have to really want not to see these things, to not see something that big.
Michael, thank you so much for co-authoring this great book with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. You exposed the catastrophe of the Obama administration and this war on terror. give a lot of recommendations in terms of naming the enemy, wanting to win, etc. Let's just finish on that. Or take it your own way. What, in a minute, what do you think the most important aspect of your book is and why you put it out there?
The book says that we are in a global war. It's all over the world. It runs from North Korea to South America through the Middle East and Europe. And at this moment, we are losing. And we had better figure out a way to win this war, and it can be won. And Field of Fight is a manual to how to win this war.
Thank you very much, Michael Ledeen. Before we go, can I kindly inquire about the shirt you're wearing? It looks like a red Chinese shirt. Am I correct?
It is a red Chinese shirt.
What's going on there? Is this part of a new ideology or just a fashion statement?
No, I like the shirt. There's a guy at the University Club in Washington where I eat most days. Who goes back and forth to China all the time, and I think they cost a nickel in China or something. So when he goes over, I say, if you see a nice red shirt, I like red, bring me one. And they fit well, they're good, especially here when it's so hot.
I'm going to have to get one of those as well. Michael Ledeen, thank you for joining the Glazov Gang.
Thank you, Jamie.
And thank you so much for writing The Field of Fight with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. And Michael, thank you for being such an honorable and courageous truth teller throughout the years.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank
Jamie, you. Come to Washington. We'll get you out of that suit and tie and get you into some nice shirts. Okay. Our audience, The Field of Fight. Get it. Mandatory reading. Please don't forget we are a fan-generated program. Go to jamieglazov.com to support the program. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel of the Glazov Gang. We'll see you on the next edition. Good night.